All right, welcome to the BookTube Newbie Tag. I understand this is a stereotypical BookTube tag to do. Do I care? Kind of. Am I still gonna do it? Yes. So we'll just start right off the bat. First question is, why did you start this channel? And I'm actually lumping in this answer with another question, which is, what are you most excited about with this new channel? Man, I'm just out here trying to talk about books. I feel like I've started book clubs in the past that have just resulted purely in a lot of flaky behavior. And that's fine. It's just not a priority for some people, and I respect that. And those people are still my friends. But also, I just want to talk about books all day. And the community on YouTube has been fantastic for seeing that other people get enjoyment out of the same things that I do. And I wanted to start this channel because I want to be a part of the community. Plain and simple as that. And it's hard to find that community outside of the internet right now, for people my age anyway. So, yeah. The second question is, what fun and unique things do you think you can bring to BookTube? And the simple answer I have for that is everyone is unique in some way. Everyone brings something new to the table because everyone has different experiences, has different opinions, has different worldviews. So everyone's opinion, I think, is relevant to someone else in some way. So everyone can bring something to BookTube if they're making themselves accessible. The longer answer for me is, or I guess the more complicated answer for me, is that while there are booktubers that I absolutely love and adore, for instance, Elliot Brooks, there aren't enough of her for me. So there aren't enough people my age, I'm in my mid-20s, who are reading adult fantasy and sci-fi. It's mostly young adult, and it's just, I don't read young adult books. I haven't since probably middle school, and while I have nothing against them, I just don't really have interest in that, and that's the majority of BookTube, and I kind of want to be able to use my youth to bring sci-fi and fantasy from the adult realm into the world of young people. As I get older, I feel like the themes that are appearing in these adult fantasy and sci-fi books are things that I'm seeing more of as a person who's just seeing more of the world and experiencing more than I opened up my eyes to as a kid. So I want to bring fantasy and sci-fi to younger people who might identify with it more than they do young adult. The next question is, why do you love reading? I have always loved reading. There's never been a time in my life where I haven't loved reading. There have been some sort of dry spots in there where I was too depressed to read. But about 3 years ago, I moved out of my hometown and I went 1,600 miles away, and I didn't know anyone down here except for my dad. I didn't have a hard time making friends, but I didn't have the community of people in my immediate vicinity who liked the same things I did. When I started to finally get comfortable in my new life here, which I would say was within the last 2 years, I started reading a lot more heavily. I was finally comfortable enough and out of a depressive slump to read again. So reading for me became a way to have friends without having them. I sought an escape from the real world that I got, thankfully, and has given me a lot of really great things since then. The next question is, what book series got me into reading? And I've been reading my whole life, so there wasn't a specific series that got me into it. I always had a book in my hand. But I would say the first book that triggered my own personal growth in terms of taste was when I was 9 years old. I read the Lord of the Rings trilogy between the release of the first and the second movies. That was in 2002. And my dad got me the trilogy. He said, I think you can read this. I think you'll be just fine. And I was. It took me about a year to finish all three because I had a lot of things to read in between, including a series of unfortunate events, which I love. Yeah, Lord of the Rings is really what triggered my love of fantasy in terms of reading. I'd always loved anything involving dragons and fairies and folklore before that via movies and TV, but I hadn't had my own sense of this is the stuff I want to read. So I would probably say Lord of the Rings. The next question, I'm lumping two of them together again. The first question is, if you had a question for booktubers, what would it be? My favorite ones. And the second part of the question is, what challenges do you think you'll face having this new channel. And I'm actually not afraid of many challenges. The only thing I would ask my favorite booktubers is not about their personal lives, not about how they do it, because it's already been explained so many times. But I think my biggest challenge is going to be balancing a full-time job and having a successful YouTube channel and not taking breaks. And I have worked full-time 2 to 3 jobs most of the time for most of my adult life. And so I'm pretty good at balancing that, but it's like at the end of the day, do I want to come home and make a YouTube video? And so what I would ask is, how do you find the motivation to do that around your jobs? You know, I think that just comes with a lot of hard work, dedication, organization, and scheduling, which I'm trying real hard to do with this channel. So the next question is, when did you start reading? As I said earlier, I've been reading my entire life. That's never been something that's been absent from my life. And I guess within that, I started reading back to my mother, who read to me basically from right out of the womb. I started reading back to my mother probably when I was 4 or 5, as soon as I could recognize words and letters, even if they were really simple books like Cat in the Hat, things like that. I rhymed. Unlike some people, there was no series, as I said earlier, that triggered me wanting to read. There was no event. I've just always been reading my whole life. Next question is, where do I read? I read anywhere I can focus. That could be a cafe, that could be my reading chair, it could be my couch, it could be a table, it could be in an uncomfortable chair at work, it could be in the bed. It doesn't really matter to me. I just need to be able to focus. And the best place for me to read is somewhere where I can have an ambient sound playing from Ambient Worlds. I'm plugging that because they're really awesome. They make great ambient music for readers. I'll link it down below. Yeah, as long as I can put my headphones in or have music playing, I can read anywhere, pretty much. The last question, what kind of books do you like to read? You should know this already if you've even glanced at my channel and never watched a single video. My cat's over here. Do you want to be in the video? Come here. But I love to read science fiction and fantasy. Those are my 2 favorite genres. They pretty much always have been. There are quite a few contemporary books, some classics, and some horror books that I do love just as much, but if I'm seeking out books, I'm going to be seeking out sci-fi and fantasy. Now, with that said, I do always have a contemporary horror or nonfiction book on hand, because I do find that my head gets a little overwhelmed sometimes with world building, with big descriptions, things like that. So it's kind of nice to have something where I can just take a break from reading something heavy for a minute and give my mind a minute to rest. So yeah, sci-fi and fantasy for sure, which I don't think is uncommon. So that was my stereotypical newbie booktube tag. I think you'll get to know more about me through my own videos, the ones that aren't tags, but I think this was a nice thing to do considering I've been making videos for a couple months now, and I don't really talk much about myself, just about the books, and I think this maybe made me a little bit more comfortable to be in front of the mic and the camera. Thank you so much for watching. You are appreciated. Please have a conversation with me by commenting down below, or you can hit up my Instagram or my Twitter to have a conversation with me, or you can message me on Goodreads, where I do put every single quick review that I can of everything that I'm reading. So thank you so much, and I'll see you again later on this week.